now or later, but we would love for these sandwiches to be gone, and it might be good if you want to do it before the next session starts. All right?
Can you hear me? Is it on? Yeah. I think so. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Just put it a little closer. Hello, folks. We need to get started. We're running a little late, and I'm ready to introduce the next speaker. So I'll give everybody a chance to get in and get settled. Then I need to get my paper. I hope every one of you enjoyed your lunch and spent time at the Vendor Expo. Our final session will bring together both presentations we've heard this morning and will apply to the everyday life of living with MS. Good afternoon. I am Catherine Crichton-Reed, and I am pleased to introduce today's final speaker, Dr. Terry Price. Dr. Price is the Director of the Neuropsychology and Family Services. She holds a PhD in Counseling Psychology from the University of Kansas with a specialty in neuropsychology and behavioral medicine. She is board certified by the American Board of Professional Psychology and Rehabilitation Psychology. She is on the board of the American Board of Rehabilitation Psychology, Inc., and serves as conference manager. She has held posts as president of the Brain Injury Association of Kansas and Greater Kansas City, the Brain Injury Association of Missouri, Academy of Spinal Cord Injury Professionals, and the American Association of Spinal Cord Injury Psychologists and Social Workers. Well qualified, I would say. She is co-author with Dr. This spelling I'm not quite sure, but Swerkinski and Leaf, PhD, of the Red Book distributed by the Brain Injury Association of Kansas and Kansas City, and the lead author of the revision of 2010. So let's please welcome Dr. Price.
Thank you very much. Those names are a challenge. I really do appreciate the opportunity to be here and to present my part of the presentation. And really, my part is the so what factor. So what am I supposed to do about this is what I often get. You know, that's very interesting data, Dr. Price, but what am I supposed to do about this? What can I do? And, you know, I would say there was a time when we talked about MS, more of the emphasis was placed on what you can do to deal with the physical symptoms. But I'm here to tell you there's things that you can do to deal with some of the cognitive issues. Either the ones that you feel like you have and testing didn't reveal, or the ones that you have and has been revealed. I always tell folks there's things you can do to make it better, and there are things you can do to make it worse. Pick one, but try really hard, if you can, to make it better. So what are we going to do today? You're going to take out your brain and play with it. That's what you're going to do. In the back of my handout that I have, there is some references, but then there is this one worksheet where I hope you keep that to your side and you jot down some things that you might want to do different, because I want you to leave with an idea in mind of what you can do different. Like I said, what you can do to, if nothing else, make it better. So be intentional in thinking about this. I am going to cover a lot of strategies, a lot of ideas. The fact is I'm going to cover too many. And not all of them pertain to you. Maybe you already do half of them. So think as I'm talking, and if you hear something that goes, yeah, I need to do more of that, I got to work on that, then jot it down. Because my hope would be that you'd come out with an idea, first of all, a sense of hope of what you can do to work on these things, or somebody you love can do. These strategies can be useful to anybody. So we'll get started. Well, we've already covered this ad nauseum, so I'm not going to go too much into this part. And in fact, I'm going to spend a little bit less time on any of the research and really spend on pragmatic strategies. I do want to note that we do know that certain things are typically not affected even by a number of neurological conditions, inclusive of those old established skills, that word knowledge and reading and what have you, and simple attention. All right, so As I mentioned before, very little had been done with regard to studying whether cognitive remediation would be useful for an MS population. And when I did a brief review of some very recent literature, I came across a couple of studies. And Dr. DeLuca has been involved in really quite a few studies with regard to things that are cognitive issues as well as things that can work on it. And one of the things I liked about this study is it showed that when we did cognitive activities, this was a computer-based activity, it seemed to make a difference in the activation in the brain in positive ways. So that takes it away from not just being something that improves functioning or improves your ability to manage, but maybe making a positive difference in brain activation and organization. And that makes a lot of sense from a rehab perspective because I work in a rehab setting. So the summary is, it may lead to positive changes in the brain if you do these things, so we'll talk about that. Then I looked at a review of many studies. So this was a meta-analysis looking at a number of studies, and I will say that the majority of studies they looked at when they discussed cognitive remediation, many of the programs were computer-based, some computer-based type of program. And interestingly, newer studies focusing on processing speed, executive functions, attention, did not yield beneficial effects, and they recommended more studies. Having said that, these are a few of the ones that a study that was done, and one of the things they found is depending on the computer program, sometimes folks needed help in knowing how to operate the program. But they felt that they were getting something out of it, and I'm all in favor of placebo effects. There's nothing wrong with that. So in this one of the things that was what I think is important is they noted that one of the primary things that seemed to be interfering with one's ability to profit from those programs for the memory impairment was, again, the processing speed. So I'm going to give you my take about processing speed and its impact. Processing speed, as you know, is how quickly your brain processes, thinks, responds, and reacts. It can appear to affect memory in this way. This is my clinical experience. I talk too fast, I know that. I give a lot of information as I'm talking along, blah, 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 and you're listening intently, thinking of what I'm saying. I very well could have left that. I could have just marched away on you, and you don't even know it. And later on, when somebody says, well, what did you think about that study, she said, I don't remember her saying anything about a study. It's not about memory. You weren't there. You weren't even there. You were here, you were here, you were here, but you were not there. So processing speed can appear to be memory, but it's really not. It's how much information we quickly absorb and can hold on to. And as you can understand that, it can also impact attention, your ability to sustain attention. So I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about those things. And I think it's important to address them because, if nothing else, if you're concerned about your memory, do something about it. I don't care if the neuropsychologist, me, says your memory looks fine. Do something about it. It'll make you feel a heck of a lot better. You'll have better control of information. It'll help your brain. So that's what we're going to think about. All right. So this is another study using this other program. And there were mixed results. And part of the problem is, and I'm going to say this, just if you play these activities like a game, think of it this, just because you get good at a game doesn't make you good at life. If that's the case, all of us that ever won a Monopoly would be rich. And we're not, right? Bear that in mind. So in cognitive rehab, here's what we know. We had studies on this. If we set people down in front of a computer, a wonderful computer program, and had them do it and walked away, they didn't get much out of it. And subsequently, it's no longer a recommended strategy. However, if we sat next to them and we help them to think about it in a broad way, what's going on in this game? What do you think is happening? What strategy could you apply to do that game? And they apply that strategy and they practice it, they get better at the game. Then we say, what does that have to do with your real life? How can you then generalize it? Because some of the problem is that we're looking at the game and we're not thinking about its applicability. So this next study, which I think, as it says here, what I think is important is it says it seemed to help with similar tasks. So if you're chasing a Mario Kart in your real life, good job. But if you can find a game that somehow mirrors your real life activities, you have a better, unless you purposefully think of a way to make it generalized. Does that make sense? You've got to do the hard work. So what does that say about lumosity? I get this question probably once a day. What about lumosity? Is that an okay game? First and foremost, it's better than Jerry Springer. Can I get an amen? All right. Anytime you do anything that makes your brain work, I'm okay with that. But if you just do it as a game, all those things I just said apply. It's not going to be very useful for you. If you're willing to really invest your time and energy in working on it and then also thinking about how they can use those skills in your everyday life, it probably will have a benefit. So it is something that I recommend. I certainly think that, and I'll get to it, I certainly think that intellectual stimulation needs to be a part of your everyday life. So mixed results, but some positive things. And if you have trouble operating the program, find a 12-year-old. All right. So this is what I was saying. If you're going to do any program, I don't care what it is, and there are many of them, the thing about Lumosity is it has a free trial and then it's kind of pricey. And there are some other programs, and the ones that I just told you, when I went online to see how much they were, they didn't tell you how much. You have to contact them, and that's a bad sign. So I also know that you can Google and get some free programs, and that's okay. Find things that are based on strategy and thinking and not chance. That's what you want to look for. Identify what strategy you're using that's working. Think about how you use that in your everyday life. See if you can continue to apply it. But I would rather you take away the take-home message, which is the key to success in life is to find a strategy and practice it. That's the key. Once you get that, we're there. We've got it. Identifying successful strategies. That's what it's all about. So this is what you're going to be working on. And I see I have a typo. It should be intentional application of useful strategies. I want you to be thinking of your life going forward. What's a better way to do this? In rehab, we're all about a better way to do it. I believe that there's anything you can do if you're willing to modify it. Anything. Practically anything you want to do, you can do it if you're willing to modify it. If you insist on doing it the old way, you're not going to happen. But if you're willing to modify it, dedicate yourself to self-research. Know who you are and what you need, and then help other people to know what they can do to help. But first you have to know who you are and what you need, and we'll talk about that. And then realize this is your brain. Train it. Who's in charge here? You or your brain? Well, the answer is your brain. But for the purpose of this conversation, you are. Don't let it boss you around. If it's not doing what it needs to, have a conversation with it. What's going on here? Why isn't this working? What can we do to make this better? Dedicate yourself to training your brain. And many of us are a little sloppy on the brain training, so we're going to talk about that. So why put in the work? First of all, I can tell you that whatever strategy you apply, even if it doesn't improve the thing, it's not like your memory thing inside gets better, you'll get better at it. You'll get better at functioning. And isn't that the point, after all, to get better at functioning? You're going to practice cognitive behaviors. That's always a plus. If you understand and learn and process, you're going to feel better about who you are because you're going to know what you need and you're going to do a better job of articulating it to others. And if you train your brain, you have a better chance of activating those positive centers. And if nothing else, like I said, you can make things worse. What do you think happens to your brain if you don't use it? Look at the rest of your body. Look down. What happens to any of us if we don't use it? Nothing goes well. The key to success is to keep your brain moving and your body moving. That's the key. All right. So let's talk about processing speed. And we'll talk about different strategies, but I want to talk about first being aware of speed. This goes to what I just told you about self-awareness. What does that mean if I'm slow in processing speed? Well, one of the things it may mean is that your actual sense of time is a little off. You think you're in the bathroom for 20 minutes, and your spouse says, oh, no, you were in there a heck of a lot longer, because your sense of time may be a little skewed. You may be thinking of the way it has been in the past. I used to be able to get out the door in 20 minutes, but that's not the way it is. So one of the ways we can help our processing speed is to be mindful of time. One of the things we know in social psychology research is whatever we study, we get better at. So study it. Get better at it. Watch it. Put a clock in key places, and when you go into the bathroom, what time is it? When do I want to be out of here? Keep your eye on the ball. And you'd be surprised at how much better and efficient you'll get. Because here's a reality about time. Things expand to fill the time allotted. One of the problems when we retire, by the way, is when we used to work, we only had Tuesday night to do laundry. Now we have all week, and may get it done or not. And so the person may find that they don't have clean underwear because they didn't do the laundry on Tuesday night, because they didn't have to. So if we have to put ourselves on a schedule, we do better with time. Estimate how long it should take you to do the task. So let's say that your job is to help set the table. How long should that take? And see how long it takes you and see if you can get a little faster at it. Again, you're pushing, you're training your brain to get a little faster. And plan your use of time. Really, really, this is important. And I know that you understand this at one level, but again, if things expand to fill the time allotted, give it the time you want it to have versus letting time kind of boss you around. So to-do lists and schedules. Otherwise, you're going to have this kind of a life. Whatever. Did you get that done? No, I'm going to. When? I don't know, sometime, which is short for not going to get done. If you're going to get something done, put it on your list when you're going to get it done. What day? And if you can't get it done that day, put on your calendar when you're going to finish it. That's how you move time along. Now, I know that sounds like a lot of hard work and absolutely no fun whatsoever, but I promise you it is effective. All right, time wasters. One of the things about time wasting is getting distracted and getting off task. That is a time waster. Here's a common thing that I hear from my patients. I have trouble getting things done. I go into a room and I don't know why. That's a common change that happens. But here's what really happens. You leave the bedroom with the intention of going into the kitchen. As you leave the bedroom, you notice there's laundry sitting over there, and you think, I'm just going to throw in a load. You throw in a load, and you think, when am I going to take this to the cleaners? I'm going to take this to the cleaners. And then you go out, and you think, come to think of it, I have to call Betty. And what about that piece of mail? And by the time you've gotten to the kitchen, you've had 1,000 thoughts. Now, if you really wanted to be mindful of time, you leave the bedroom and you go to the kitchen. You ignore the laundry, ignore Betty, ignore the bill. They'll all be waiting when you're done. Those are time wasters. So we have to have a sequence and a routine of the way we do things. When we do things in a routine way, and by the way, your brain loves routine, more things get done more efficiently. If you take your medicine the same way every day, all the time, then you won't have to wonder, I wonder if I took that medicine. If you tend to do your laundry in the same way all the time, the same kind of a schedule, it'll probably get done. So do your brain a favor and put it on a schedule and give it some routines. But stay on task. Train your brain to stay on task. Have everything you need before you begin. Plan and prepare. This is a simple task you can do. It's going to come up in another one of a checklist. Before you leave the bedroom, do I have everything I need? Got all my stuff? My husband does a checklist before I leave the house. You got your keys, you got your purse, you got your bags. Do you know why we have that checklist? I walked out with one of those things. So now I do that to myself. Do I have my this? Do I have my that? And in so doing, I'm prepared for the next point. So, but finally and most importantly, if you know it's going to take you more time, build in extra time, because the worst thing is to feel rushed. Nobody likes to feel rushed. It does not do well. So let's be reasonable in our assessment of time. Understand how long it's going to take you. Build in the appropriate time to do it. That will be your way of studying and improving time. If you're going to work on it in other ways, find video games that actually involve speed, that have levels of complexity, where you can actually see. Now, one of the nice things about Lumosity is that they do have charts, but some of the other programs do too. So you can literally see whether you're getting faster on the task, and that's kind of nice to see that. But there are board games with time limits. Play a musical instrument, because if you don't, it's going to take you forever to play Stairway to Heaven. It takes you forever. It's going to sound like an elevator. Physical activity in sports, if you like to play basketball, but whether you do or not, dribbling, something like that, bouncing a tennis ball, anything that can work on speed and agility is probably a good thing. So those are some things that you can do. So think about the things I talked about. Monitoring and managing time, doing your to-do list, doing exercises that actually work on time, and write down on your list what, if any of those things, you'd like to see yourself doing more of. What about attention? Even though attention isn't necessarily affected, and I will say it can be depending on the more complexity of the type of changes in the brain, attention is foundational to memory. So I often find that I can't really talk to folks about memory unless I talk about attention. There are different kinds of attention, divided attention, where you're focusing on more than one task at a time. Think of multitasking, which, by the way, I'm not a fan of. It's not effective. There's greater research about that. But adults seem to think that success in life involves multitasking. Success in life actually involves learning to pay attention to one thing. Sustained focus is keeping it focused on one thing for a longer period of time. And I'll say this for sure, when I was in college, and I sat through some very not always interesting lectures, don't listen, Dr. Denny, none of yours, of course, I used to have the capacity to sustain my attention for an hour and a half. Now if I go to a seminar and it's not interesting, I'm working on work, I'm doing other stuff, because I have lost and I have allowed myself to get sloppy in paying attention. So one of the things that I can do is help myself sustain attention by truly trying to focus. Selective attention, selectively focusing on one thing and ignoring other things, and then going back and forth. There's also visual attention, that visual scanning, you know, that thing where you go to the refrigerator and you open it, you can't find the mustard and you swear it isn't there anymore, and your spouse says, "You mean that big yellow bottle right there?" It's visual attention. Auditory attention, where you're not really listening to all the details. So we have to think about where we kind of fall apart in our attention. I love this one. Come on, we're all affected by it. Squirrel! I love that. But do you know who your squirrels are in your life? I know who my squirrels are. I know the things that distract me. So, avoid distractions. First of all, train yourself to stay on task. Really, train yourself to stay on task. If you mean to do that, do that. Talk out loud while you're doing it. Why? Because when you're not talking, your brain can go to all kinds of interesting places. You don't know it. But if you talk, you're engaging your brain and you're making it go in a certain way. And who did I say is in charge? You, not your brain. Make it go where you want it to go. Herd the cats. Don't let others talk to you when you're on a mission. You know, if you're on a mission and they say, "Hey, and by the way, would you..." Talk to the hand. On a mission. If you're pulled off task, make a note of where you're at. Make a note, write down what you're doing, and decide what you're going to do when you return to the task, and avoid multitasking. So, and you may think it's rude to kind of tell people, but truthfully, it's rude to be interrupted. If you're doing something, it's rude to be interrupted, and it's best if that just doesn't happen. I like this too, because this is what we really do. We tell ourselves to go one place and we go to 100 places. Pay attention, because the truth is, if you have kids, you'd never let them get away with what you do. You wouldn't. If they didn't come back with the socks, you'd be all over them. So, you know, take care of your brain. Do what you need to do. All right. Be an active listener. And I'm going to start with the bottom. Don't be a bobblehead. Here's what a bobblehead. So my husband's talking to me and I'm listening. Really what I'm thinking is, you know, I need to go in there and I need to get that report out and I got to do that and I got to look on that other thing. But I'm looking interested because I've learned that fine art, right? Yeah, he's been married to me for a long time. He knows that I'm not. It will help me if I stop and summarize to him. So you did what? Why did you do that? Where did you go? Because in order to do that, I have to actually pay attention. Now, sometimes he wonders if I'm just dull, that I have to ask these questions, but I know why I'm doing it. I'm doing it so I can let him know, let me know that I'm really tracking in what he's saying. Otherwise, we're going to get to the end and I'm going to say, that didn't make any sense whatsoever. And here's the other thing that couples do. I'm sure none of you do that. You know how we talk and walk away from each other? Who do you think is listening? No one. If it's so important that it needs to be said, get in their face. And if you really want to help yourself, please understand, you're going to pay attention if it's important and interesting and there's a test at the end. Did you get that? Important, interesting, and a test at the end. So if it's something really important, get in front of your spouse and say, this is important. Listen to me. And there will be a test at the end. And they will. Red alert. They'll pay attention. So do that for yourself too. Whoa, hey, this is important. And sometimes you have to tell yourself this is important. And I got to tell you, sometimes my boss thinks I ought to do things that I don't think are important, but he does. I have to have a little conversation with myself about that. Don't tell him I said that either. All right, be engaged in the activity. Be engaged. It's hardest to be passive, and I know that. You're all passive, which is why I asked you to write some things down. It's much better if you're engaged in some way. If it's writing, if it's doing something with your hands, if it's chewing gum, anything is better than passively sitting like this. That's the hardest thing to pay attention. If you need to, talk yourself through a task. You know, I don't know where we got off in thinking talking out loud was a bad thing. You know, my grandmother used to say, it can't be too bad, nobody's talking back. And she's right. Talk out loud. Talk yourself through. So I need to do this first, then I'm going to do that. Again, you're keeping the cats herded in one direction. Write a note. Run the checklist. Do the pat down. Do I have everything? Do I have everything? Do you know how many problems that would solve if you did the pat down every time you left a room? Do I have everything before I left the house? Because the truth is, for most of us, before we leave the house, we're already gone. I'm already down the road. You know, my head's not there. We're being mindful. By doing the checklist, I'm bringing me back to the current, and that's a good thing. All right, a place for everything, and everything has a place, but it has to be true for these things. Your purse, wallet, your keys, your phone, your bills, and your pills. These are things you never want to have to look at. They need to have a home, and that's where they live. That's where they live at all times. And your spouse's job, or your family, or caregiver, is to do I Spy. I Spy your purse where it should not be. You need to move it now. And here's the deal. If I move it for you, that's easy. That's passive. You're not going to remember it. But if you have to get up and go over there and move that thing, even though you're going to be really ticked at me, you won't do that again. You'll think about it because you've gotten actively involved. So find a place and be dedicated to use it. And if you need to, make it really big. Avoid visual clutter. Visual clutter is not your friend. And by visual clutter, I mean stuff all over the table and you're looking for that one. Here's, you like your desk, you have all your mail out. Do you know how hard it is to find a white envelope in a sea of white envelopes? Pretty hard. If you had them clustered into bin one, things that came in, I don't know if I got that bill, but if I did, it's there. That's what I mean about put it in separating them. And if you need to, put a red mark on that envelope because then you'll know that's an important one and it'll be easy to spot. Have one place where you put your calendar and your notes, because here's what I often hear from folks when we talk about memory writing notes, but I can't remember where I put my notes. That's because you're putting your notes everywhere. And then you're exchanging one problem for another. Where did I put it? However, if you keep all your notes in a central location and you tell the people living with you, if you need to write me a note, it goes in this one place, that problem is solved. That's not a bad problem or a hard problem to solve. Keep it all in one place. Executive functioning is a little bit harder to talk about. It involves assessing the situation, developing a hypothesis. This is that part of the brain that sort of puts it all together. What should I do? What are the pros? What are the cons? What can I try? I try that. Does it work? I accept feedback. I listen to it. I monitor. I change. I tweak, and I go on. It involves a lot of social awareness, a lot of self-awareness. It's probably the hardest thing to remediate, to be honest with you. We see much more of this in traumatic brain injury. But there's room for all of us to improve our executive functioning, so we'll talk a little bit about that. It involves prioritizing versus reacting. Here's where a calendar comes in handy. If you have a calendar and you write things down that you're going to do, and you look at your calendar in the morning, you make your to-do list, and you look in your calendar at night, what am I doing tomorrow? What do I need to lay out? Then you have fewer oh crap moments in the morning. When you get up and you go, oh crap, I got a doctor's appointment. What did I think of that? So it's prioritizing and planning versus reacting. Sequencing versus disorganization. I can't do a recipe together. Sure you can. But you have to do it the way they teach you in cooking school. First I get all of my ingredients and then I put all of these over here for this stage and all of these for this and this. They don't let you just go in and pull things out. They make you organize and sequence. If you do that to yourself, you're going to be training your brain that there's a way that we do things that makes it work out best. Filtering versus being disinhibited. Disinhibiting is saying whatever comes to your mind. Filtering is, oh, but I don't think I better say that because last time I did it didn't go so well. So we have to practice filtering. Filter, filter, filter. Self-monitoring involves thinking about how you're looking at body language, seeing how it seems that folks are responding to you, just being socially aware of what's going on around you. Mental flexibility is going with the flow. I'm going to put that short. It's being willing to come up with more than one option. And again, there's always more than one door. We've got to find a different door to do it. So I like this from Einstein. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. That's mental flexibility. We have to realize that there's probably a different way to do it, and we've got to think that through. But we may need help doing it. So we think about what's the option? What are the possible, or what's the problem? What is the problem? What are the possible options? What are the pros and cons of those options? Collect information. Talk to people around you. Explain your rationale to somebody, because there's good research that shows that you don't even understand your thinking except to the extent that you can explain it to others. Monitor your decision. How did that go? Did that get what I wanted? And make adjustments. If you walk yourself through a conscious effort like this and write it down, you're going to come to a lot better decisions if decision making is a challenge for you. So here's my list of daily vitamins, and you don't even have to go to Walmart to get them. Physical exercise. There is an exercise from everybody. Dr. Bruce talked about the benefits of aerobic exercise, and I could probably hear some of your thoughts going up into the air saying, well, that's not exactly my greatest strategy right now. I don't know that I have that. But I promise you there is an exercise for everybody. The key to exercise is to move your body. If you can't think of it, talk to your doctor. Ask to go to a physical therapist. Go to a personal trainer. Help them to design something for you. You should do it a minimum of 3 times a week. Try to do more. Intellectual stimulation. Reading, games, new learning, hobbies, I don't care, but it should be a part of your daily diet. Ask yourself, what am I doing now to keep my brain sharp? I don't care if you read the back of your cereal box. Could be interesting stuff back there. But do something to keep, the best thing you can do is read the newspaper. Why? The articles are short, and you'll have something to talk about when you go out in public. There's always something to talk about. Social engagement. Get out. Get out. There's research to suggest with Alzheimer's that those that stay home more than 50% of the time have a lower cognitive outcome than those that get out. Well, when you go out socially, you get to practice your cognitive skills. When you're at home alone, you're practicing them on yourself. Does that sound like a good plan to you? No, get out and talk to people. Volunteer. There's a volunteer job for everybody. The thing about volunteering that's so great is you get to decide if you go, when you go, what you do, and they love you. There's nothing wrong with that. And I'm going to be one of the few people that tells you, one of the few doctors that say, and have fun. Don't forget to have fun. You know, too often our lives are so involved in the mundane and the boring, and we forget to have fun. And you're an adult, and nobody's going to come to your door and knock on it and ask you to come out and play. You've got to schedule fun. You've got to do stuff that's fun. And all these things decrease your susceptibility to stress, depression, and anxiety. They're all good for your brain. They're good for your heart. They're good for your emotions. The role of your family is not to become your brain, but to reinforce your use of your brain. And this is a hard thing to kind of help people understand. They are to encourage you to keep an updated and detailed calendar. They are to write notes to you or ask you to write notes. You know, I call my mom, hey, did you do this? Can you write that on your calendar? Can you put a note on that? They are to encourage you to keep your things organized. And organization is a term that is loosely defined in my mind. I am a pile person. If you saw my office, some of you have been in it. Do I hear an amen? I am a complete pile person. That is a viable organizational system. But you have to have a system and you have to use it. As a family member, help to develop routines, a way that we do things. Simplify life. Simplify your life. Be dedicated to identifying new and more efficient strategies. And by this, I will give you a perfect example. For myself, memory. When you make a memory mistake, and you all will, everybody in this room makes memory errors, ask yourself, autopsy it. How did that happen? You know what you're going to find out? It's pilot error. I did something wrong. I didn't do something. In my example, I bought a gift for my daughter. It was a lovely gift. I just forgot to send it. Why? I said, why? And I felt so bad. Oh, man. And stupid, too. So I said to myself, you know, I teach these strategies. What am I not doing? Well, what I was doing is, first of all, I made sure I had everything written on the calendar. Calendar's up to date. And I almost did it again. What is up? Well, here's what was up, I realized, is I'd put the calendar on a refrigerator around the corner in a place I never looked because it was pretty there. It was pretty. But I don't look over there. I never look over there. So then I moved it to a place where I go and I see every day, and I have not made that mistake. So what was the problem? Was it my memory, or was it me getting in the way of me? That's what it was. But if I don't know who I will make the same mistake over and over again. And here's the thing. It's okay to make mistakes. Just don't make the same one over and over again. Be new and creative. Make newer mistakes. Okay? Declutter, decrease distractions and stimulation. All that stuff just taxes your brain. All that stuff. And it'll make you depressed. Nothing's more depressing than sitting around a lot of clutter. So, have you made your list? What are you going to do to work on attention? Can you think of a way to avoid distractions or to be more focused? Processing speed? Did you get an idea of how you can monitor time? Executive functions? Could you see yourself talking through an actual process and making a decision? Did you think about something you can do physically to get out? And what about getting out and being among people? If you can think of something that you can do in each of those things, you will be farther ahead. You will help to manage any cognitive symptoms you have, and more importantly, you'll help to decrease the wear and tear about those symptoms. So, those are my resources. And thank you. And I appreciate your attention because, the last person after lunch, it's always exciting. All right. Okay. So I have 4 questions here. Number 1, does working brain puzzles help assist retain mental acuity? Yeah, kind of, if you do it the way I said, mindful, thoughtful. What am I doing right here? What's helping? How can I do it? But even if you don't do it, again, better than Jerry Springer, so I'm okay. But here's the thing. Get things that are challenging. If you love word searches and you go through a book a week, you're not doing the right word search. Find one that makes you go, put it down and come back to it. It's got to make you think. It's got to make you growl. Lumosity. Yep, I'm okay with that. Concerns? Only if you do it as a game. Research is still a little loose on that one. We're still studying that. A lot to come. I talked to somebody at a break about Flint rehab. I'm not as familiar with it, but I think it's a music-related rehab she talked about with sensors on the fingers. Am I getting that right? And I'm okay with that. First of all, there's a lot to be said for music therapy. There's a lot to be said for playing music. I don't care if you're any good at it. Did I say you had to be good at it? No. Play the guitar, play the piano, fool around with that stuff. That's going to help you with that fine motor control and coordination. Music, we know that music rhythms help to track the brain. You want to be stimulated, put on stimulated music. You want to be calm, put on calming music. I'm okay with that. I think there's a lot to be said for that. Exercises to increase the processing speed? Yes. But again, start with studying yourself. Be mindful of time. Don't let it take as long. See if you can push yourself along to be more efficient. And that may be part of the issue. Maybe you're just not efficient. Maybe you could be a little faster if you're more efficient. But you're not going to know until you break it down and autopsy it, study it. Where's it falling apart? Where's that driving you crazy? And seeing if you can work on that. Other questions from the audience? Are y'all just really tired? Okay. I sure appreciate your attention. Thank you very much.
So thank you, everyone, for being here again and for being so attentive. I think our speakers today hopefully represent for you a whole network of professionals out there who are working on your behalf. One of the benefits of coming to an event like this today is that you see other people who are having a similar experience to yours, and you feel encouraged by knowing that you're part of a movement. So the MS Society is happy to be that organization that brings you together, to have that sense of community. But I hope you realize, too, beyond just the people who are living with MS and the people who care for them, is there is a network of professionals, both researchers like Dr. Bruce and Dr. Denny, and clinicians like Dr. Terry Price, who have dedicated their professional work to understanding MS and to understanding how your life can be better living with MS. So hopefully you today see from the speakers a little bit about this network of professionals out there. So as we talked about this morning, someone in the green shirt over here was able to articulate what TREND Talks is about. So if you remember, the acronym for TREND is I'm going to find my own notes. Technology, research, education, networking, and discovery. So I hope through the course of today you see each of those components in the presentations today. And before we wrap up, and I have your attention, I want to announce 2 things. One of the programs of the National MS Society is a support program that we call MS Navigation. So at the chapter, we have a full-time master's level social worker who is available to answer some of the questions that you have and to help you problem solve. I noticed one of your slides was about coming up with a new way of dealing with things, not the same ones that caused the problem. So she can help you look at your situation in a different way. One of the components of her work is also administrating financial assistance for those who are experiencing an economic impact of living with MS. So we wanted to make sure that you knew that this service is available. You can access the application online. You can also call our navigators as well, and our national number for that application. But we have some today, and they're back in the corner by the raffle table that Jean is holding up. So I invite you to take those today if you want, or just remember that that is a service that's available to you. Second, we're coming up on our annual couples retreat. So how many of you know the couples retreat is coming up at the end of July? Raise your hand. Great. So in case you don't know, we are having a couples retreat in Branson, Missouri on July the 25th and 26th. And there is still room if you want to go. There is a $100 registration fee, but that covers a night in a hotel, as well as all of the food that you would eat during the 2 days. So I invite you to consider that if that's of interest to you. Again, it's on our website, or you could call the 1-800 number for more information or to register. So we also appreciate your time and attention. I'd like to get your feedback about the program today so that we can make future events more meaningful to you. If you would like to have a more involved input on planning future events, we invite you to be a part of the planning committee. This is one way to address some of the suggestions that Dr. Terry Price said about volunteering your time and probably maybe using a creative part of your brain to keep your brain active. So we invite you to be involved with that. So I believe now, unless if there are any last-minute things that I'm missing, we're ready to do the raffle. Jean? The evaluation, yes. So the evaluation...
Did you talk about the evaluation?
Well, I may not have. So if I didn't, the evaluation form is in your folder. It is a form. Please, right now, take your time to fill it out and give it to us before you leave today.
After we do the raffle, but if you want to just put it in the middle, we'll do the raffle really quick. But if you could fill the evaluation out and then just put it in the middle of your table, I will come around and gather those at the end. And something else I wanted to mention is we do a quarterly newsletter called the MS Connection. How many of you are familiar with the MS Connection?
Yay.
Right. That's great. How many of you are familiar that beginning in the fall, our fall publication is online only? How many of you are familiar with that? Okay, if you're not familiar with that, that's something important to note. And the only way you will receive a hard copy moving forward is if you contact me. You can, I don't have my number or my card, but you can get a hold of, you can call the 1-800 number, honestly, the IRC, and they will send me and let me know if you want to remain on the list to receive a hard copy. If you do not get on that list, we will send it to you electronically. Okay, any questions about that? I do not have enough cards to give to everyone with my phone number, but you can call the 1-800 number and let them know. I've received several messages from them thus far.
So just one clarification on that. In this year cycle for us, the 4th edition coming out in September will be sent only by email unless if you ask us to send you a hard copy. We plan to send hard copies in the future, but we're evaluating how this works to send it out by email. So the September one will be email for sure. It's very likely we'll continue a hard copy in the future. We're balancing the cost of it. But it's not, we have not made the final decision to go electronic only. So, okay, while Jean is getting ready for the raffle, any last minute questions for me? Yes? Thank you so much, because that is so important. If you have written down a suggestion for a service provider, again, you can leave it in the center of the table or hand it to Jean or myself. Thank you for asking that. That is something important that we wanted you to contribute today. Any other questions? Yes?
I thought for the benefit of the group, I ought to note that I'm considered brighter than a light bulb, and I didn't get half those stupid puzzles.
Oh.
The group figured it out a lot quicker than I did. So.
Me too. Yeah. Any other questions? Great. Okay, so raffle time. Jean.
Okay, so first of all, I want to thank Rebecca Barnes, who is at the back. She worked tirelessly at getting our raffle items this year, and it's a new addition to Trend, so thank you, Rebecca, very much for spending your time calling, soliciting, and so forth. So I'm excited to have this. All right, Susan, I'll let you pick a number. Oh, do you want me to read? Okay.
Do it. Okay, ready? 6130023.
All right, we will give you get, it's from Noodles and Company. Oh, thank you. Okay. A tasting. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Okay, great. Thank you. See, this is why we need Rebecca here. Okay, you ready?
Yep. What are we doing this time? The hat?
Okay, Due West Writing has donated a baseball cap, and this will go to
6130056.
All right. How many of you stopped by Due West? I thought they were amazing. So, yes, they're great. Are you throwing this on the...
Oh, shoot, no.
Okay, wait. Do we know what to... All right, here comes the next one. These are for Powell Gardens admission. I thought they gave us. Go ahead. Well, it should be two. Yes. We really know what we're doing. Go ahead.
Okay, so 6130021.
Is there someone here?
Yep. Okay, so next is admission for 4 to the Harry S. Truman Library. And the winner is 6130024. All right. Yeah. Are you sure? Okay, well, you're lucky. Go buy a lottery ticket today.
Wait, did we get this?
Yeah. 6130067. All right. So next is, oh gosh, on and off here. Okay, this is for free admission for you and one guest to the Arabia Steamboat Museum in the City Market. And that winner, we have 2 of them. So the first one is 6130063. All right. And the next one for the same thing, 6130039. Anybody have that number? Nope. All right, we'll do another one.
Okay.
6130031.
All right.
So next we have something special for Kansas Cityans, our National World War I Museum. We have a complimentary pass for 2. And the winner is
Dun, 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 drum roll.
6130011. All right. So for all of you who want to keep telling the story about the MS Society and have something to wear on yourself to elicit questions maybe about why you're wearing that orange bracelet and what it means.
And there's a surprise inside. Just 2 half-price tickets to the Royals. Coupon for 2 half-price tickets, yes.
Okay.
So you can wear your bling while you support the Royals. And drink coffee.
And the winner is 6130027.
Oh, man, that's a downer after this one.
Oh, yay. Did someone get it? Good. Okay, I talked to someone earlier today about how awesome it is to go to the T-Bones game. So we have tickets, a voucher for 4 to go to a T-Bones game. And the winner is 6130080. All right. Okay, so we have another hat from Due West to protect our heads on these bright sunny days. 6130066. Can you raise your hand again? Yeah, okay. Okay, 2 left. Okay, 1. Can never go wrong with a gift certificate to a restaurant, Applebee's, $25. And the winner is 6130062. Okay, good.
Okay. Well, didn't you each have one? Enjoy it. And the last one is a lunch pail full of roastery coffee. So, yes. And the winner is 6130088. Did you? All right! Yay! There you go. So this concludes our day. Thank you all for being here. We will have a recording of the symposium available in about a week or so on our website. So thank you all and have a good day.